I think there was one time we sold a put on Coca-Cola with the idea that if it got exercised, we were very happy to own more Coca-Cola. It didn't get exercised. We would have been better off if we just bought the stock. Usually, if you want to buy or sell a stock, you should buy or sell the stock. And using an option technique to buy a call on a stock instead of buying the stock outright with the idea that you get it a little cheaper that way means that about 4 times out of 5 you'll be right, and the 5th time the stock will have moved earlier, and you'll have missed the transaction you wanted to have. And so we virtually have never used options as a way to enter a position or exit a position, and I would doubt very much if we do. We've sold these long-term equity put options that are described in the press release yesterday and were described in the annual report, but that's a different sort of thing. If we want to buy something, we'll just start buying it, and if we want to get out of it, we'll start selling it, and we won't get involved in any fancy techniques. Charlie?
Well, if I remember right, you wrote a letter when the public authorities were deciding whether we should have option exchanges for stocks. And Warren was all alone at that time, and he wrote a letter saying that he didn't think it would do any good at all for the country to throw out the margin rules in this fashion. I've always thought that Warren was totally right. It's the idea of turning financial markets into gambling parlors so the croupiers can make more money has never been very attractive to us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to me when I talk to these MBA students. One of them from the University of Chicago, the very first question I got a few years ago, he says, "What are we being taught that's wrong?" I love questions like that. I have to plan them in the future. The amount of time spent at business schools, maybe it's a little less now, but teaching things like option pricing and that sort of thing, it's totally nonsense. I mean, you need 2 courses in a business school. One is how to value a business and how to think about stock market fluctuations. But the idea that you would spend all of this time with formulas, but the problem, of course, is that the instructors know the formulas and you don't when they come, and so they've got something to fill the time explaining to you. And it is no fun if you were teaching biblical studies, and you could read 3 or 4 of the most important religious tomes forward and backward in 5 different languages. You would hate to tell somebody that it all comes down to the 10 Commandments. I mean, any damn fool can do that. So there's a great desire of the priesthood in finance to want to teach the things that they know and you don't know, and that they spend a long time learning, and that maybe require a fair amount of mathematics. And it really has nothing to do with investment success. Investment success depends on buying into the right businesses at the right price. And you have to know how to value businesses, and you have to have an attitude that divorces you from being influenced by the market. You want the market there not to influence you. You want it there to serve you. And that requires a mindset, which goes back to an earlier question. And it's a mindset that's described quite well in Chapter 8 of The Intelligent Investor. Yeah, Charlie and I, have thought about options all our life. I mean, my guess is Charlie was thinking about that in grade school. And you don't have to understand Black-Scholes at all, but you have to understand the utility and, in a general sense, the value of options. And you have to understand the cost of issuing options, which is a very unpopular subject in certain quarters. Any option has value. I mean, I bought a house in 1958 for $31,500. And let's assume the seller of that house had said to me, "I'd like an option on it, good in perpetuity, at $200,000. Well, that wouldn't have seemed like it cost me much if I'd given it to him. But an option has value. Any option has value. And that's why some people who are, kind of slick in business matters sometimes get options for very little or for nothing. I'm not talking about stock options. I'm just talking about an option to purchase anything. They get options for far less than really a market value would be. Black-Scholes is an attempt to measure the market value of options, and it cranks in certain variables, but the most important variable it cranks in, that it's based upon the past volatility of the asset involved, and past volatilities are not the best judge of value. I mean, if you looked at a 5-year option on Berkshire stock at various times, Berkshire stocks had a fairly low beta, as they call it. The beta is a measure that people in academia always like to give Greek names to things that are fairly simple, and so that they have sort of a priesthood. It's like priest talking in Latin or something. I mean, it kind of cows the laity, but beta is a measure of past volatility. Berkshire's had a low volatility, but that didn't mean that the option value of it, to anybody that really understood the business, was lower than a stock with a higher beta. And I think what Charlie said is that last year is that for longer term options in particular, Black-Scholes can give some silly results. I mean, it misprices things, but it's a mechanical system. And any mechanical system in securities markets is going to misprice things from time to time. And we made one, as I mentioned last year, we made one large commitment that basically had somebody on the other side of it using Black-Scholes and using market prices, took the other side of it, and we made $120 million last year. And we love the idea of other people using mechanistic formulas to price things, because they may be right 99 times out of 100, but we don't have to play those 99 times. We just play the one time when we have a differing view. Charlie, you want to comment on?
Yeah, but Black-Scholes is what I would call a know-nothing value system. If you don't know anything at all about value compared with price, in other words, if price is teaching you all that can be known, then Black-Scholes on a very short-term basis is a pretty good guess, for what a 90-day option may be worth in some stock or another. The minute you get into longer-term options, where you don't have the know-nothing factor so extreme, it's crazy to use Black-Scholes. People use it just because they want some kind of a mechanical system. But at Costco, for instance, within a fairly short period, we issued stock options at 30, and we also issued stock options at 60. And Black-Scholes valued the options we issued at 60 as a strike price, way higher than the options we issued at 30. Well, this is insane.
Well, we like a certain amount of insanity.
Yeah, well, it's good for Warren, who picked up this extra $120 million.